Hi, welcome if you are new here, and welcome back if you've been here before. We are so glad that you are here, my friend. If you're not familiar with me, I am Jessica Rector, and oftentimes organizations, companies, and events bring me in to come speak on ending burnout, or what we call the burnout solution, and eradicating, preventing, and beating burnout while also enhancing your mental health. So I am often contracted to come and speak, train, and consult with companies all the way from small companies to Fortune 100 companies. So today we are going to talk about something that lots of people in the workforce have been dealing with. We are going to say yes to less stress and less burnout. So let's start eradicating burnout. Now, oftentimes when I speak with leaders, they tell me a couple things. They'll say, yes, we recognize our people are in burnout and we want them to be helped. We just don't want you to mention the word burnout. Hey. Or they'll say, well, maybe my people are in burnout, but we're not really ready to raise the flag and start talking about it and say, yes, we definitely are in burnout. Now, just to give you some stats, our recent research has shown 79% of the workforce is in burnout and almost half are in extreme burnout. We've been researching burnout way pre-COVID for about 10 years. And so we keep track of those different numbers and stats and people who are really being impacted. Actually, Gallup says in the last year alone that 90% of the workforce has felt burnout. So oftentimes what leaders are saying and what employees are feeling, there's a gap. So we want to help bridge that gap and get employees and team members the things they need to really help them prevent and beat burnout. So even if you're here today and you're like, Jessica, I am not in burnout. Woo! Yes, we're excited that you're not in burnout. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to get in burnout, especially with so many challenges, uncertainty, changes going on, lots of staff shortages across every industry and every organization. You're more prone to burnout. In fact, we are introducing an assessment called the risk of burnout, meaning we want to help you identify how prone you are to burnout. Now, we already share this and give this within organizations when we work with them on our programs, and it allows us to help very specifically customize that content to what they're saying that's coming up for them. So before we get into that information, I'm going to share with you the 3 things or 3 T's that leaders can do to help their people with burnout. Because again, there's often a gap between what leaders think and perceive and the reality of what's going on in their organization. Now, when you are thinking about burnout, there's nothing off limits about it. People are finding that the more they're in burnout, the more it impacts their mental health. The more the mental health is impacted, the more it leads to burnout. So you have this vicious cycle that goes around and around, and we want to end it. And today we're going to start. So the first T is to start talking about it. Start talking about burnout. Don't let burnout be stigmatized. We don't want it to be taboo, where people are scared to talk about it, where they're scared to admit that they have it. Here's what happens when people have burnout. They tend to pull away and isolate themselves, thinking, I'm the only one experiencing it. No one else understands. And when they pull away, their performance decreases, productivity goes down, morale, mood, everything decreases. And they're more likely going to leave the job thinking the grass is greener on the other side, not knowing that they're taking all those things and feelings that led them to burnout with them, because they're just putting a Band-Aid and not really fixing or curing burnout. So we want you to start talking about it, especially if you are in any kind of leadership position or role at your organization. It really is powerful from the top-down approach of talking about it. The more leaders start talking about it and recognizing it's a problem and really wanting to help their people, the more their people are going to lean into it and say, yes, yes, finally we're discussing it. Yes, we're talking about it. I don't have to feel isolated. I don't have to feel alone. So when you start talking about it, you're creating that foundation, that culture of I care. I care about you. I care about you as more than what you can do for me as a worker. I care about you as a human. I care about your mental health. I care about your well-being. I care how you're showing up and your confidence and how you're leading and communicating. I care about you, what's going on in your life. And so start talking about it. A great way to do that, if you don't know where to start, is to share your burnout story. When you're in burnout, why you're in burnout, what led to burnout, and what you did to move through burnout to get you to the other side. When you start peeling back the layers and becoming authentic, especially as a leader, your people lean in and they go, ooh, tell me more. Yes. He gets it. She understands. They're just like me. Yes, yes. And when you start doing that, they feel that it's a safe place, that they're going to be met with compassion, empathy, understanding if they come to you saying, I'm feeling burned out, or I need a mental health day. I need a few days off to recover, to recuperate, to get myself situated again. And when you're creating that safe place, that safe environment, your employees, your team will stay longer. Now, I get and completely understand what it feels like to be in burnout. In fact, I was working for a Fortune 100 company, and I was winning every sales award. I was their number one top performer only within 6 months after starting the job. I had high expectations for myself, but I was also working 70, 80 hours a week, working overtime. I wanted to win those awards. I wanted to make more money. I was driven. And then I also started feeling the impact of that. It started impacting my health. My morale went down. I didn't want to go to work. And then when I was there, I didn't want to be there. I was trying to find any excuse to take a break, and we weren't allowed to take breaks. And so when I approached my leaders about how I was feeling and the things that were coming up, I was also missing a lot more work. So I was going to the doctor more frequently, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And I shared this with my leaders that I'm feeling burned out. I need something else going on. Something's got to give. They had no resources, no help, no support in place. And in under 2 years, I left the organization, and I was their top sales performer. So you don't want to have your people leave thinking they're going to find the answer to somewhere else. So lean into that dialogue. Start peeling back the layers and start talking about it, because burnout and mental health are the two biggest issues impacting the workforce. So you've got to make sure that you get in front of these issues to help your people with it the most, so they don't leave and go somewhere else. And when you start talking about it, you create that safe place, that environment where people want to be a part of an organization that cares about them as a whole person. So number one, talk about burnout. And what's interesting is some leaders think, well, Jessica, if we start talking about it, it's going to plant a seed in the minds of workers. People who are burned out are then going to think they are. Not true. That is a complete myth. And here's why. Burnout's been so much on the forefront of conversations. It's been so much out there in the workplace. Workers know what burnout is. And I also don't like to put a definition on, because I don't want you to compare how you're feeling and what's going on with you to a definition. If you think you're in burnout or you're feeling like you're on the brink of it, then you are. It's that simple. So how are you feeling? Number two. So number one is talk about it. The first T. The second T is a training program. Woo-woo! Yeah, so you don't get in burnout in 30 minutes, in 15 minutes, in an hour, and you don't get out of it in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. So we're going to give you some nuggets here on where to start, because oftentimes when people don't know where to start, they just don't start. Or they keep doing the exact same things in the same way, expecting themselves to get out of burnout, or wonder why they're in burnout in the first place. Well, you got to change things up. You can't keep doing the same way you've always done it, right? So I want you to think about what kind of training program you can incorporate within your organization. Now, it's great to bring someone in, whether it's a live event or virtual, some kind of program like that. One time, that's great, but that's really just a springboard. Really, the magic happens when you have a long-term training program. Now, I'm going to share with you a few things to make sure that your training program incorporates to really see those long-term results. Again, you can bring someone in for an hour, and it's going to be great. People are going to get nuggets, they're going to get takeaways, but really where to see those long-term results is to have a longer-term training program. So whether it's 6 months, a year, something, and there's different ways that you can incorporate them. We offer all different kinds at our company. We offer on demand, which means that your people go in and they do it in their own time, in their own way. It's self-regulated. They have quizzes that they take to make sure that they've gotten past certain points, and at the end they get a certificate, because yes, we want to celebrate them. We want to celebrate their accomplishment. We want to celebrate what they learned. And also, one of the things people want most at work is acknowledgement and appreciation, and it's also one of the things they get the least amount of. So we want to make sure we are celebrating them for accomplishing that and for being proud that they did that and they learned that and they're implementing those things. So that is like an on-demand. We also do in-person training programs. We do virtual, where it's through a computer or a device, a software, whether it's Zoom or Google Meet or Teams. And then we can also do hybrid. We have a lot of companies who are interested in train the trainer program. So you may have an HR individual, a learning and development professional at your organization, a training executive, any of those type of people who want to come in and get trained and get certified in the Burnout solution, our Burnout program. And then they go into your organization and they teach it to your people. So they can teach it on a quarterly basis, bi-yearly, meaning twice a year, once a year, however you want to do it. They can teach it to new hires coming in, because it's important to get in front of burnout so people can prevent burnout, especially when you have new people coming in. They're new to your organization, they're new to the job, they're new to the role. It's a great way to help them prevent it, as opposed to waiting until people are in burnout and then you're playing catch up behind the 8 ball. So you want to help people prevent it as well. So you can do that program for people who've already been in an organization. You can do it by teams, you can do it by departments, you can do it when the new hires come in, all different ways that you can use our material and our courses to help your people prevent, breakthrough, and end burnout once and for all. So a couple things to look for when you're looking for a training program that fits well with your company. So you want to make sure that, again, it's something that is long-term, not something that's one and done. Long-term training program. Another thing you want to make sure you look for is some kind of accountability. Hold people accountable. They have quizzes. They have an assessment they have to take. I mentioned at the beginning that we have an assessment. How at risk are you for burnout? What this allows us to do, because ours is not a general program that every organization gets. We like to very specifically customize it to an industry and to that organization. And the way we do it is we find out what those contributing factors are for people on the team or in the department or within the organization as a whole. And so when we give them this assessment, we have them fill it out completely, It's 100% anonymous, so we get no information about the person besides answers to the questions. And then what we do with that is that allows us to go in and say, here are the factors that are contributing most to burnout for your team or department, however we're doing it within the organization. And so we're going to go and share those specific strategies, tips, tactics, tools around what's most leading to burnout for them, or what might lead to burnout the most for them in the future. We don't want to be generic. We're just giving them generic information because that's less likely that they're going to go back and implement anything that we're talking about. And we want them to implement something. We want them to go back and create some kind of change in their life. Otherwise, they're just going to go back and burnout's right there waiting because they're going to do the same thing that they've always done. So we want them to create a little bit of change that's easy, manageable, and that they can commit to doing so they can create that change and really eradicate burnout. So make sure you have some kind of accountability within the training program, a support system for them, some kind of interaction, activity pieces, and questions answered. Because what's coming up for people is they are suffering in the day-to-day and they need to get their questions answered. They want a place when they're going back and implementing something and it doesn't work out the way they planned or the way they think, that they can actually get those questions answered. So some things to look for whenever you're looking for the perfect training program for you. So you have talk about it, 1, training program 2. Number 3 is a task force. So we work a lot of organizations and companies to help them create a task force. That's the third one, a task force. And the easiest way to do this is find someone in your organization or on your team who is excited about ending burnout, who is really passionate about wellness. Ask them if they want to head up the task force. Now, you want to find someone who's passionate about it and who finds the purpose that's in line with the purpose of it, because you don't want them to take it on and 2 weeks later it fades. You want this to be a long-term project. They're going to come to you with great insights, ideas, feedback, things that you can implement, and they'll also go and advocate for the task force, meaning they'll go and get their colleagues along with creating this team of task force members. And then this task force can create quizzes. This task force can go out and ask individual team members, what's coming up for you? How can we help? How can we serve you? And then you know what your people want implemented the most. Oftentimes what happens is leaders think this is what we should do. Employees want this. Again, another gap. So we want to bridge that gap. And when you have a task force, you have people who are finding out firsthand, speaking for the team members, and also communicating with the leaders. This is what we're finding that most people want, or this is how they really want to engage. You're engaging this way with a lot of meetings. They want to engage more with fun. So can we incorporate one fun thing a day or a week where we're playing trivia for 15 minutes or we're getting together and we're playing Yahtzee, something like that. So the task force has their eyes and ears, what's going on within the team members, because they're talking with them, they're communicating, and they're also relaying that information back to the leadership for things that they can actually implement. So one thing to keep in mind, I often hear, is that we have a workplace wellness initiative or program in place at our organization, so we're good on burnout. Those are two entirely different things. Most organizations' workplace wellness programs don't have a lot of employees engaged in them because they're not meeting them at the employee level with what employees want most. Leaders are constructing that workplace wellness program and not talking with employees of what they want. So there's not typically a high engagement level in workplace wellness initiatives. And also 97% of workplace wellness programs don't specifically address or take care of burnout. And that's imperative. If you want to end or prevent burnout, you have to have specific programs in place, not a wellness initiative or a wellness program. You have to have specific programs in place that are all encompassing around burnout, because there's a lot of information that you might not know that's coming up around burnout, and lots of different things that you can do to help your people with burnout. So just to recap, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go back and start that dialogue. You are going to talk about burnout. Take the stigma and the taboo out of burnout. We all know what burnout is. Let's talk about it. Second thing you're going to do. So you're going to say yes to talking about burnout. Second thing you're going to do is you're going to say yes to a training program. Do some research. Find out what the training program is you want in your organization, which one's going to fit best with you, what benefits and value that you want that program to have. And I gave you a selection of several. Make sure they have those bare minimum, meaning accountability, support, Q&A, lots of things that your people can go in and get engagement and interacting with to make it fun, because people want to have more fun at work. And it also helps reduce burnout. And then the third one is say yes to a task force. Yes, yes, yes to a task force. Who in your organization can start up a task force and find out what everybody else wants or needs to help prevent and end burnout? So if you have questions around burnout or your mental health, make sure you reach out to Jessica at jessicarector.com. We're happy to help you. And you can also find all kinds of information at jessicarector.com around us speaking and training. And you can also find out more about our training program at blazeyourbrain.com. blazeyourbrain.com lists all information about our training program. If we'll find out what works best for you in your organization, because we're here to help you prevent and end burnout once and for all while enhancing your mental health. So we'll see you on the next one. Have an awesome, amazing day. Bye-bye.